I need you to listen carefully to what I'm about to tell you, because even after all these years, I still struggle to explain it. I've never really been able to find the right words to capture just how wrong that night felt. It was supposed to be just another Thursday evening, but it turned into something that scarred me for the rest of my life. The date was October 14th, 2004. I was in second grade, maybe third. Too young to fully understand what danger really meant, but old enough to feel fear in my bones. That day had been soaked in rain. Not just a drizzle, an endless, furious storm. The kind of rain that makes the gutters overflow and the sky feel like it's cracking apart. My parents had picked me up from school, but they weren't staying home that night. They had some event to attend, a fancy dinner, maybe a fundraiser. I don't even remember what it was. What I do remember is that they called me from the event hours later, their voices tense and apologetic. The storm had gotten too violent to drive. Roads were flooding, trees were being uprooted. They weren't coming home. They were going to stay at a friend's house nearby. At that age, I wasn't upset. In fact, I was excited. Having the whole house to myself felt like an adventure. No bedtime, candy without anyone stopping me, cartoons until I couldn't keep my eyes open. I thought it was going to be fun. Before hanging up, though, my mom gave me instructions. A list, really. Lock every door, shut every window, close the blinds, keep one light on. At the time, I thought she was being overprotective. I didn't understand how dangerous it was for a kid my age to spend the night alone. I promised I would do it, but of course, I didn't. I was too distracted by the thrill of my freedom. I stayed downstairs in the living room couch, watching TV and eating candy until the sugar high crashed. I don't even remember falling asleep. I just remember the sudden shift, going from warm and comfortable to waking up in the kind of cold that bites at your skin. When I opened my eyes, the TV screen had gone black, leaving only the faint glow of a single lamp. Everything was quiet, except for the storm outside. And that cold, it wasn't natural. The kind of cold that makes you feel like you're not alone, like something unseen is breathing beside you. At first, I thought about going back to sleep, but then I remembered my mom's list. She'd know if I didn't do it. Somehow, she always knew. And the last thing I wanted was to lose her trust after she left me home alone for the first time. So I pushed myself off the couch and started moving through the house. Every window, every door, every blind. I checked them all, my little hands fumbling with locks, my eyes darting into the corners of dark rooms. Everything was sealed, every window locked tight, every door secure, every blind pulled shut. There wasn't a single reason for the house to feel the way it did, yet the air still carried that unnatural weight, that strange cold that seemed to cling to your skin and seep into your bones. I told myself the storm must have knocked out the heater. That explanation worked for a while, but as I stood there in the silent house, staring into the shadows that seemed to stretch too far, I began to feel something else, something worse. It wasn't just cold, it was watchful. Like the house was holding its breath, like someone was already inside, and I had just locked myself in with them. When I finally finished checking all the locks, I should have felt safe. That's what locks are supposed to do, right? They keep the bad things out. But standing there in the silence of my own home, I felt no safety at all. Only a heavier, deeper unease. The storm was still raging outside, but somehow the quiet inside felt worse, like the whole house was listening to me breathe.
I told myself I was being paranoid, just a kid spooked by shadows. I turned off the living room lamp and crept upstairs, thinking only about crawling into bed and pulling the blankets over my head. That's when the real nightmare began. My bedroom had a massive window facing the yard. Normally, I loved it. At night, I'd fall asleep staring at the trees swaying in the wind, the moonlight breaking through the branches. But that night, the window felt like a stage, and the storm was performing only for me. Rain hammered the glass so violently I thought it might shatter. Lightning cut across the sky, bright enough to bleach my room in white light for just a moment before plunging everything back into suffocating darkness. Thunder followed, shaking the very walls. Oddly enough, none of that scared me. Not the rain, not the lightning, not even the thunder. I wasn't afraid of storms. What unsettled me was what I heard beneath the storm. A sound too deliberate to be wind, too controlled to be branches scraping the house. A creak. Slow, heavy, as though weight was shifting across wooden planks. But the upstairs was carpeted. There was no wood to creak, not in the hallway, not in my room. I froze in bed, holding my breath, straining to listen. At first, I thought maybe I'd imagined it, my tired brain conjuring up noises to match my fear. But then I heard it again, louder, closer. Creak. Not above me, not below. Inside my room. I sat up, my little body trembling, my eyes darting into the shadows. Lightning flashed again, and for a fraction of a second, my room was bathed in white light. Everything looked normal. My posters, my toys, my desk, all of it just where it should be. But my eyes landed on the closet. That door had been shut. I was sure of it. I remembered shutting it before climbing into bed because I never liked sleeping with it open. Now it stood slightly ajar. I waited for the thunder, counting the seconds like it would somehow calm me. But the silence between flashes stretched too long, each one like a punishment. When lightning came again, the closet was still open. The shadows inside seemed thicker, heavier. And I swear to you, I saw something shift inside. Not a full figure, not a face, just movement. My throat locked up. I couldn't scream, couldn't even cry. I slid out of bed on shaking legs, every muscle in my body screaming for me to move faster, but I forced myself to go slow, to stay silent. That walk to the door felt endless. Each step dragged, my ears straining for another creak, my eyes locked on the closet. I expected at any second for something to step out, but nothing did. When I reached the door, I didn't run. Running would make noise. Running would give me away. I opened the door inch by inch, every hinge groaning in protest, then slipped into the hall. Only when I was on the stairs did I let myself move faster, padding down as quietly as I could. I didn't stop until I reached the dining room. I crawled under the table, pressing my back against the wall, pulling my knees into my chest. And that's where I stayed, for minutes, maybe hours, listening. The storm raged outside, the house creaked, my heart thundered. But through it all, I couldn't stop thinking about that closet, because I knew, without a doubt, that it hadn't opened by itself. Something was in my room, and now it knew I was awake.
I don't know how long I stayed under that dining room table. Time didn't feel real anymore. The storm outside was still tearing the world apart, but all I could hear was my own heartbeat hammering inside my chest. Every breath I took felt too loud, like it was announcing my hiding place to whatever was upstairs. And then it happened. The sound that froze me in place. The sound of footsteps. Not the quick, confident steps of my parents coming home. Not the steady tread of someone walking normally. No, these were clumsy, uneven, almost
animalistic. They weren't walking so much as stumbling. Every step seemed to land with too much weight, like whoever it was didn't know how to balance properly. They were coming down the stairs. I covered my mouth with both hands, squeezing my eyes shut, as if not seeing would somehow make me invisible. The footsteps grew louder, clumsier, bouncing off the walls as they descended. Whatever it wasn't moving like a person should. And then I saw them. From under the tablecloth, through the small gap between chair legs, I saw feet. Bare feet, muddy, swollen and scraped raw. The skin was pale but tinted yellow, almost sickly. Cuts ran across the ankles and calves like they'd been crawling through thorns. The mud dripping from them left streaks on the tile floor. I remember thinking they didn't look human. Not really. Then something dropped. A wrench. It hit the floor hard and slid until it stopped right in front of me. I bit down on my hand so hard I nearly drew blood, because if they bent down to pick it up, they'd see me. They'd look me right in the eye. They didn't bend. They just stood there, waiting, breathing. Their wet footprints spread across the floor, circling slowly, like they knew I was hiding but couldn't find the exact spot. Every second was agony. The storm outside roared, lightning flared through the windows, and in those flashes of light, I saw the wrench gleam inches away from me. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the footsteps moved again. The legs shifted, clumsy and heavy, stumbling into the living room, into the kitchen, then back through the hallway. They searched the first floor in circles, dragging their steps, knocking against walls, leaving mud wherever they went. And then, at last, I heard the front door open and close. They were gone. I stayed frozen under that table for the longest time, too terrified to move, too shaken to even cry anymore. At some point, I reached out and grabbed the wrench, holding it in my hands like a lifeline. I couldn't explain why, I just didn't want to leave it behind. When morning finally came, sunlight crept in through the blinds. The house felt normal again, warm, quiet, safe, but nothing inside me felt safe. I checked the front door. It was locked. Perfectly locked, like it had never been opened. No footprints on the porch, no sign anyone had come in. But I remembered those legs, the mud, the cuts, the smell of wet earth, the sound of those staggering footsteps circling my hiding place. I never told my parents, not right away. I didn't want them to know I hadn't followed my mom's instructions. I didn't want to admit I'd failed. I carried that secret for years, and it gnawed at me, night after night, every time a storm rolled in. When I finally told them as a teenager, they didn't believe me. They thought it was just a dream, a child's imagination. But I know what I saw. Because even now, 20 years later, I can still feel that cold. I can still see those muddy legs under the table. And sometimes, when the night is quiet and the storm is howling outside my window, I swear I hear those clumsy footsteps again, dragging closer, searching, just waiting for me to forget to lock the door.